Hello, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn DIY Prairie Restoration with Missouri Department of Conservation. I'm your host, Sydney Ross, Outdoor Education Manager for Deep Roots, and we have a fabulous show for you today. Before we begin, I just have a couple of notes up the top to share with you all. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Missouri Department of Conservation, who connects people to nature in their own backyards and beyond. Today's program is a great example of how Missouri Department of Conservation protects fish, forest, and wildlife across the state of Missouri. So special thanks to them for all that they do for nature and people. Special thanks as well to our donors and viewers like you. With your support, we continue to make these wonderful programs. We appreciate you. If you're looking for inspiration, join us Saturday, August 10th for our second Saturday Habitat Garden Tours. This month, we'll be visiting the Blue River Corridor. From Stillwell to Marlboro neighborhoods, you can see 3 incredible native habitat gardens and meet the people who care for them. It's great for inspiration for your own backyards and to enjoy, or front yards, and to enjoy camaraderie with other nature enthusiasts. I look forward to joining the tour this coming weekend on August 10th. Now, if you're thinking, well, Sid, I've got all the inspiration I need, but I don't know how to maintain my garden through the seasons. I encourage you to join me 5 times a month at the Anita B. Gorman Conservation Discovery Center, where you can learn seasonal skills firsthand on the grounds of the Discovery Center, which you can then take and apply them to your own landscape. Have fun, enjoy camaraderie, and feel empowered to maintain your own native garden. This webinar will be recorded and all resources will be available online following today's webinar. I will also email you directly links and resources following today's show, including how to join our Native Habitat Garden Tour and discover native gardening sessions. Don't forget, put your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have questions, please be sure to put them in the Q&A, because after today's webinar, we will have a live Q&A session with the homeowners who have done this prairie restoration and our guest expert, Cassandra Messer. And if you stick around for that Q&A, we will have a pop quiz at the end where you can get your very own copy of Missouri Wildflowers, which, as you'll see in today's program, is a really great resource for those who are learning to connect with nature. So stick around for that. After today's webinar, please visit us online at deeproots.org for more information on upcoming events, webinars, native gardening resources, how to get involved, and more. Consider making a donation while you're there. We appreciate you. All right, I'd like to go ahead and welcome to the virtual platform both Cassandra Messer and Mark and Jenny Frost. These are the folks who are going to be sharing their expertise and insight today in today's program. So Cassandra Messer has worked for the Missouri Department of Conservation since 2016 after graduating from the University of Central Missouri. Cassandra's career started as a forestry aide, where she first began her prescribed fire journey. After her time in forestry, she took a position as a fisheries technician with the department and is now a private land conservationist for both Platte and Clay counties. Along the way, she gained further experience, including 2 Western fire details to Idaho and Northern California. I'd also like to give a shout out to our friends at Missouri Department of Conservation who have recently been dispatched to help fight the wildfires in Colorado. Sending all of our friends love and safety as they help with that. It's pretty wild. Hey, Cassandra, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you back as our guest expert. You are so full of insight and knowledge about how to change these landscapes from turf to pastoral prairie like we're about to see today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for today.
Yeah. So folks, please stick around for the Q&A at the end of today's segment, where you can chat directly with Cassandra and Mark and Jenny Frost, the landowners who you're about to see have done some really amazing work with support from Missouri Department of Conservation. Okay, so we have a great show for you all today. We're going to go ahead and jump into our webinar, and I hope you enjoyed today's Lunch and Learn DIY Prairie Restoration. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Messer with the Missouri Department of Conservation. I'm a private land conservationist, and we're up here at Mark and Jenny's place in Platte County, and we're going to show off and talk about their story with their beautiful pollinator planting that you can see here behind us. So Mark and Jenny, I kind of wanted to start with why did you decide to do this project when you first came out here, and when did you start the project?
Well, we talked about it in the fall of 2018, and as we talked about buying the 7 acres at our age, we thought about the fact that we may not be able to mow 7 acres long term, and so we started thinking of some options. And we'd seen some native grass, and so we began to research. We reached out to the conservation department, and we learned more about the native grass and how we could partner with the conservation department to help us get that done. And we learned that we didn't have to fertilize it, we didn't have to mow it, and low maintenance, and it helps the habitat, and it brings beauty to the neighborhood. And so it seemed like a no-lose situation for us. So it was at that point that we made the decision to move forward and put in about 3 acres, just about half of our land, into the native grass, and so we did that November of 2018.
That's awesome. So you had a lot of good things going, like in your mind, of like all the benefits. Did you have any like concerns initially whenever you were told like how you were going to have to, implement the project?
Yeah, well, probably a couple of people would say, well, the native grass would have a lot of snakes and a lot of mice and a lot of things that could bother us, and that we would have to burn it. I can tell you that in the 5 years that we've been here, we've seen one snake, a black snake, and it had nothing to do with the native grass. We've not had any mice. So really, from that standpoint, we've not had any of that. On the other side of the spectrum, we've had deer in our native grass. We've had wild turkey.
Awesome.
We've had a lot of species of animals. As far as the burning, we burned after our 3rd year the first time, so we had 3 years to kind of figure that out, and we had help, and that was not hard. And so we've burned it one additional time since that time. I can burn it myself in about an hour now. But really, there were really no other concerns that we knew about it at that time.
Yeah, so you guys did 2 Roundup sprayings.
Yes.
One in the fall and one in the spring, and did you 2 fall sprayings?
Yes, we did 2. We spread them apart. We had done 1, and then as we were moving into fall, Randy came out and said, you need to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I called at the time Sure Grow, as an agricultural company that takes care of farmers, and they're really cheap, and they bring out the big machinery, and it was like $100 to do 3 acres, and they bring out the big booms, and they drive in and spray the Roundup, so you have a clean landscape. You don't, we don't want any competition with the native grass.
And then you had I was reading in your chart that you had a little bit of erosion problem. Like when you,
Yeah.
how did that play out?
Well, we did our hydro seed on the property, and then we got ate it like a big rain afterwards, and so especially in this area right here, all the hydro seed went into our native grass,
Which didn't help, but the native grass is slowly choking that out. But the erosion, anytime that you start a new grass, or any house out here that has acreage, anytime that you start a yard, you're typically going to move from weeds, and you're going to move from rough ground into a transition into grass. So the first thing that you want to do to transition into even grass is you want to kill off all of the other vegetation. And so it only takes a few rains. So yeah, we like everybody else fought with some of the erosion, but as soon as this came up in the spring, especially now, it stops all of the erosion. And
so you didn't do anything but let the native stuff grow
we
up
didn't
that
do
spring?
anything but let the native grass come. We were told just the answer a lot of times from the conservation department was, just let nature take its course. We have the seeds down, let them go, do this, like keep the early spraying, make sure that you spray for anything that you don't want in there, because now now's not the time to go in and spray Roundup or 2,4-D or anything else, because you can kill this.
It's
So
actively growing.
at this point, you kind of let some of the ragweed and things go in there, and then in the fall time we'll do a burn every other year. But the native grass just year over year gets thicker and chokes it out. And the other thing that I think is a little bit surprising is that not all of your seeds may come up the first year, and they may not even come up the second year. Right? It may be year 3. You start seeing things in year 3, and you're like, well, did we plant that? That's kind of what I said. And they're like, yeah, well, you planted it, but sometimes it takes a few years for things to start to come up.
Definitely. Great. Well, thanks for explaining that process to us from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, every spring I come out and I check it for thistles, of course, and so I walk the property every spring when the plants are coming up and they stay low, and I just continue to walk it. I probably every day until the plants get large enough where I can't see them. So really, thistles have been my enemy, and also locust tree sprouts where they sprout. I've seen like mullein, and Randy Keyran was our first conservation agent, and he would say, don't worry about that, and I have none now. So nothing I did, I just let it grow, but the plants have choked it out. So when you guys would tell me, now don't worry about it, the plants are going to choke it out,
It's
the
hard
native
to hear
plants,
that.
it's like, well, I'd really like to get out there and pull it or do something with it. But it does happen, and every year it's just been more spectacular.
That's awesome. And so whenever you're killing the thistle and you have a little bit of Johnson grass, I see that you've taken care of and sprayed, what are you doing to actually maintain those? Like, what do you spray on it, or do you just dig it up, or what kind of methods?
I dig up the thistles.
You dig up the thistles?
Yeah.
Well, she has done both, and we use some 2,4-D, amine 400 also.
Okay.
And you can just squirt it, and we have a backpack sprayer now, and so she can just walk around with the backpack sprayer and spray
That's
it.
awesome.
So it really doesn't take that long, and she walks it probably more than you need to, I would say, simply because she enjoys it.
Yeah.
And it's a chance to take a good walk.
Yeah.
And so
That's one of the best ways to manage too, is just by walking it and looking and seeing what you have going on.
And you get to see the plants, because now it's so thick. You know, that's one thing we've talked about, trying to figure out how to make a path through it. But then I don't want to mow it, because I don't want to take up any space from any of the wildflowers. But
Right.
it would be kind of nice to be able to walk through it too.
Right. Well, I wanted to show everyone, I know that you have this, but they don't. I just want to show how intensive Jenny cares about this space, and I thought this was a really cool idea. Go ahead and tell them about that book that you made there.
Well, this one I made in whenever we first, I think it was the second year. And so our conservation agent came out and helped us identify plants in the immature stage that they were. And so I would take pictures of them so I would be able to identify it, and then take a picture of the mature plant too. And so in the spring when I come out, I can walk through and I just bring my book, because I always can't remember. Oh, well, I know what that is now, and so I can remember what I'm planting. What I need to do is update my mature plants, because my compass flower looks completely different than it did 4 years ago. And so does my milkweed, so many of it does. My bergamot. One of the things that whenever we did get the seeds initially, we did ask specifically, like, the plants to be about 4 foot tall. And so that we thought that was really great, that you could
Yeah, you can kind of make specific requests.
right. And so we planted 27 different flowers, and we planted 2 different grasses. Not to say I'm better at identifying the flowers than the grasses,
Right.
But we just think it's beautiful. We have a beautiful summer, and then you're going to be helping us extend that to maybe through September, the beauty of it.
Yeah, definitely. So another, I'd say something that we want to make better issue they're facing is just, it's gorgeous this time of year in July. It's July right now. But then it lasts for a couple months, and then in September, August, September, it loses. There's some sparse flowers in there, but they want to like up the species. So we're going to work with them to get some interseeding going and get their goal of what they want to be even better. So As far as management goes, we talked about that. You guys mow it once a year, is that correct? And what height and what time of year?
Yeah, I usually mow it once a year, and I wait till the second or third good freeze, and so make sure. So usually it's around mid to late November, and when we mow it, I had a special mower at the time that we just owned when I bought my tractor. Anyway, it kind of spread the seeds, but we just use a brush hog now. A flail mower, ours is about 6 feet wide, and it has cutters on both sides, and it spins. It spins in a drum instead of a rotary type of a cutter, and so it spins, and it had like 56 different cutters in it. And so as you would pull it, it basically spreads and mixes up your seeds. And so flail, F-L-A-I-L, flail mower. And so we had it for several years. Actually, we sold it to an individual in Kansas that was going to put in about 20 acres of native grass, and he wanted it for his. And so
yeah, it's a really nice tool to have.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that option, but if you do, maybe I should get that in my inventory.
That'd be nice.
It's a good idea.
We usually wait until the first week of December and catch a day when the wind is low and it's a nice day and it's frozen several times, and then we'll just I can burn it myself in about 1 hour, and so it's pretty easy, pretty low maintenance. So that's kind of how we take care of it, and then in the spring it just comes back up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you were telling me that sometimes you get neighbors involved with the burn, and they're happy to do it.
Yeah, I have plenty of neighbors, and everybody wants to come out and help.
Provide pizza and some beer or
right.
something. Everyone's happy with that.
Yeah, but it really is not a big deal to burn it once you've been trained. And we worked with the Conservation Department, and they have training classes, and you can go through that. And the Conservation Department has equipment that you can use for free to burn, or a list of vendors that you can use. But we just found that I have neighbors that grew up on farms, and they burned since they were small, and they're like, we can take care of that. So the first burn, they came over, and then I kind of got braver and saw how easy that it was.
Yeah, just one time doing it and just build your confidence and just understanding like how it works mechanically. It makes it way more simple. But one more thing I wanted to point out while we're standing here is, in my opinion, in your guys' neighborhood, it's a suburban neighborhood, but with acreage, they all have acreage. You kind of set a trend. Now they're not all doing like true native wildflower plantings, but they've seen how beautiful your guys' planting is, and they're like, I want that. And so I've had at least 3 visits in this neighborhood started off by you guys, and then on top of that there's other people that haven't talked to me, but they planted wildflowers, and even they're not mowing those spots. So you're creating a really good connected habitat within your neighborhood. So I think you guys set a really good example for your neighborhood.
I want to thank you for that. I would say that we would not have wanted to have done this, nor do I know if we could have done this without the help of the Conservation Department. And the individuals that we have worked with come out, will walk through in the spring, will help us understand, especially the first year or two.
Stressful first 2 years.
Yeah, and even the first year, the first spring, first summer, we had some color. But the thing to know is that it just keeps getting better year over year. And even just look at the compass plant.
Yeah,
like
compass
this is the first
so cool.
year, so this is summer 5. And the compass plant up until this year, I mean, we found 1 or 2 here or there. But now we have these compass plants throughout our property, and they're starting to spread, and they're beautiful. And I never knew that they would grow like that.
Yeah.
And so this is summer 5, and so at summer 5 is you can start to look around, especially other parts of the property, and you start to see those, and those are really neat plants.
Yeah, they're really cool. I mean, there's a bird perched on that one over there. You have a lot of bees and pollinators in here right now, and lots of diversity.
Lots of rabbits.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have a lot of
Lots of rabbits.
That's awesome.
And we were concerned when we moved out here. I think we don't get a lot of rain, and we were like, oh my goodness, this is just going to all dry up. But it's drought resistant. It's just amazing how it maintains itself. And so, I mean, we have to do a lot of work into it. And I think some people felt like all you do is plant the seed and it just takes care of itself. But you've got to put your work into it too, to make it beautiful.
To make it beautiful. You'll have some out there, but you're not going to have
Yeah.
this.
I want to jump on top of that because we talk about the work that we put into it. I would say that it is a drop in the bucket compared to the work that it would take to mow it, to fertilize it, to maintain grass. Because grass is so much more expensive and hard to maintain. This is really easy. And so, yeah, there may be some work. There's some work in growing trees or anything else, but the work in this is 5% of what it would take to maintain it if we had to mow this 3 acres every week and tried to fertilize it and maintain it. And
when it gets less and less every year with
gets
the
less and less
thistles,
every year.
Because every year I count how many thistles I get. And I think this year I had like 7. I had under 10.
That's awesome.
And so I was so
That's so
excited
cool.
about that.
Yeah, that's really cool. What is like anything that you would like? I know you mentioned that a couple things for people to like understand about planting, but like anything else that you want to mention that you think people that are considering doing this or are concerned about doing this kind of thing, what would you want to tell those people?
I think the number one thing I would say is to be sure and work with the conservation department. And I keep saying that, and I tell our neighbors that too, because like you said, we have others that will get some flowers and they'll throw down and they'll do that. That's not really the native grass that we're talking about. And there are special vendors that have the seeds, and you provide the list of the vendors, put together a plan, had the machinery that we use. In fact, Randy, who we had at the time, came out and was here during the planning of it and just gave us all the advice. And then especially the first year and the second year, we would call, at that time, Randy Keyran, we would call him 3 or 4 times, and he would come out throughout the summer. You come out now, and just to have that support to walk through it. And just like now, we say, well, we want some more color in August and September. So we're going to work with you, and you're going to give us a list, and you're going to walk us through how to do it and have the machinery and things that you just really would be a challenge to do on your own. So that would be probably the biggest thing that I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any other additional thoughts,
I
Jenny?
agree wholeheartedly, because some of the flowers, they just go, and I think they're wildflowers, and they don't understand why doesn't it look like ours. And so that would be I agree wholeheartedly with Mark. If it hadn't been with the conservation department, I can't imagine how difficult it would have been to have done this.
Yeah, well, that's
so
awesome.
we really appreciate it.
And we wouldn't have this if it wasn't for your guys' hard work. So, like Sydney and I, every time I come, I'm excited to see it. And every time she came for the first time today, and she was excited to see it.
Yeah,
So
we're pleased to have you. And when y'all would say, "Don't worry about it," I couldn't help myself but worry about it. But every time, I would bring a concern, you all would explain it. You would say, "This is what's going to happen." Now, this is the first year we've seen this.
the Culver's root. That's a cool one.
Isn't that so cool? And it's like, why haven't I seen that before? Because it's not like it's this small,
Right.
but so
They do what nature just does what it wants,
Yeah.
and some of them just take longer to get started.
So this is year 5, and just seeing
Culver's
that
root,
one.
yeah, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, and we've got, there's so many plants. I'm like,
I know.
if I took a hula hoop and set it in one spot, I bet you could find at least a dozen species.
It's a great planting.
Oh man, the pollinators. I don't know if folks in our audience can hear this, but there are pollinators everywhere. Oh, dragonfly just flew by. I see a big bumblebees and the birds. You have created native habitat for nature.
And look around us. Like, look at I want everyone to see where they're at. Like you wouldn't think that you could find native habitat in this area.
It was so exciting when the wild turkeys came in, and they would just kind of pop up. And it was just so exciting when we see the deer. You can see when they're laying down, and we love that. And we have butterflies, typically more toward the end of summer. That's when we start seeing the butterflies.
Migrating this way.
Yeah, so
The bees are going
the
crazy.
the bees are what is so fun to watch too.
They're really cool.
And we have 2 small granddaughters, and so we hope we're teaching them about taking taking care of the earth
Stewardship.
and just passing it forward.
Well, that's a good topic too, because a lot of people I talk to, they're concerned about their kids. They don't want to do a native planting because they're worried about the snakes and you guys mentioned that earlier, but they're worried about their kids being around it. Is the main
Yes.
concern I get.
Well, you know, our grandgirls, they have an appreciation for it. I've never had a concern with them. The snakes haven't been an issue. And that was a concern of mine too. But I don't know, you just teach them to respect it, and they just,
That's
it
great.
just hasn't been an issue.
That's awesome. That's a good life lesson for sure.
And it's nice when we see people driving through the neighborhood, and you know they'll stop.
They
and
slow down.
Yeah, or they'll stop and say, you know, how did you do that? And so we're able to, say, well, talk to Missouri Conservation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So hopefully people will.
Right. Well, I was just telling Jenny that 2 weeks ago, one of her neighbors called me and wanted a site visit, and they always talk about your planting when I go to their properties, and like,
Yeah.
how do I do that? So what you're doing is working.
It's what's so beautiful. And then it's, when I walk around it, because you can't see all of it, there's some, those little asters you can see through here, and they're just, every day I walk through and I see something different. So
That's
it's
so
always, it's always so nice. But
And she has family pictures here, right? You do family pictures here and
we get
enjoy
family
it.
pictures, and
I'm sure they're beautiful pictures.
well, we hope so. The background will be beautiful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I always loved the compass plant, and what I called my original compass plant. The first one that we ever identified was on the other side, and I would look and look and look for compass plants, and it, like Mark said, it was amazing that really last year I had one tall one, and then this year we look out and we go, look, there's another one.
Yeah.
I love the purple cone flowers. I all the yellows and purple, just all of them. They just are, they're just beautiful.
It's vibrant, it's striking. Like even from the road, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I always think I'm going to come out and pick a bouquet, and then I just can't.
You can't
stand
bear
it. I just can't. It's like I just can't stand to cut any of them.
You got a few acres of bouquet going on.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's some more of that covers.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
There was a, what's it called? There's one of them that the leaf kind of looks like something, partridge pea.
partridge pea.
So but the leaf kind of reminded me, because I'm not an expert with plants by any means, and but it looks kind of like a locust. And so when Randy was out here, I was like, oh, there's a locust. He goes, no, that's a partridge pea. And so I've had to identify those, and I've got to. It's funny how some of them are grouped, because I have a group up there, but I haven't identified them.
Did you
anywhere
see
else.
more partridge pea the first couple years?
Yes.
Yeah, because they're like very early. They get on very early, and then everything else chokes them out eventually. They aren't as prominent because they're a shorter species.
Oh, okay.
And I think, aren't they an annual too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Annual plant.
So the annuals usually, unlike the perennials, which come back every year, the annuals are like the pioneers, so they kind of get established, and then then they get succeeded out, or
Right.
it's like succession, right?
Okay. Because I've only seen them on the boundaries.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of
Right.
sense.
The reason I wanted to stop you here is you said you were having trouble with the grasses, but I saw some side oats
Yeah.
that you planted, so I wanted to show the grasses. And we always, back in the day, earlier, we used to do a lot more grasses in plantings, but then we realized they were like kind of aggressive. And so now we still want grasses because they're the ones that carry the fire the best. So we'll typically pick the shorter species. It's like they said they wanted short species in their planting. So we're not going to pick big blue stem and Indian grass because those are aggressive species anyway. So typically we'll do little blue stem and side oats.
I love side oats and little blue stem. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's really cute.
And you've got this great pond here too.
It's a beautiful pond. Your pond likes that you have this too. It's soaking up all the nutrients.
Yep.
Excess nutrients. Have you had any neighbors complain ever about your planting, like in winter when it's not blooming so bright, or in the spring?
No, nobody's complained about anything. You know, when we get ready to burn, we just put it on our little Facebook group that, you know, we're going to burn, so maybe some smoke. But no, everybody's been very supportive and complimentary of it. You know, and I'm happy that other neighbors are wanting to move forward too.
Yeah.
Because, like Mark said, it was the maintenance of it. We had lived in a subdivision for 20 years and then decided we wanted to be landowners. But then when you start thinking about the process of building, sometimes you forget about the yard and the lawn, and you have to start from the very beginning. And so this was the solution that we were looking for. And so it's just been, for us, it's just been ideal.
That's awesome. That's really cool. It's always exciting. I always tell people about you, about how intensive you are in making your book, and walking it frequently, and that's what makes it one of the best ones around, really, maintenance wise.
Really remarkable. We always talk about how it's one thing to plant a garden, it's another to grow, and really what that means is caring and stewarding and maintaining.
Right.
But it's a labor of love. We do love it. And every morning to get up and look out and see this.
You can't not smile, you know, you can't.
It just makes you happy.
Pleasant. It's a pleasant thing to look at.
It is. You should have heard me as I was driving up, screaming in my car with excitement.
You know, and we're always happy to show it off to people that appreciate it. Some people don't have an appreciation for it, or don't really know what it is.
Right.
Too, when they drive by,
They're like, "What in the heck? How did you do that? That makes no sense." But really, it's a native. Back in the prairie days, this is what it looked like.
I also meant to show. Of course, you all have the Missouri Wildflowers book, which is a great resource as well. And you
can get that on our website, or ask one of us, and we'll try to get it from you from our office.
But it's good reading.
It'll be dog-eared.
Yeah,
I love that.
So whenever I was looking for my bear-tongue foxglove, and I was like, well, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. So, and it's color coded, so I'll find something new, because I found something Culver's root.
Yeah,
and I was
awesome.
like, oh, look at that. But then I keep a list of my plants that we planted back here, and so then I can kind of go back. And I think I found about everything except there's a couple that, like this Illinois blue flower or something.
Bundle flower.
Bundle flower. I was like, I don't know.
Not
so
yet, maybe.
I thought, well, maybe you can help me find that one. But it's always exciting whenever I find something, and that I can identify it based just on using, the resources that are out there and available to us.
Awesome. Well, I just want to reiterate, it's so important to have people like you guys in a community being great steward, amazing, A++ stewards of a landscape, and that really sets an example for people around you. And so by doing this video with you guys, hopefully that your reach will be further than it is now. But thank you so much for talking with us today, and we'll be on after this to answer questions, or I will for sure be on after this to answer questions. So thank you guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. How about that prairie? Hey, Cassandra.
Hi.
All right. I'd like to welcome Jenny and Mark Frost, as well as Cassandra Messer, to our virtual stage. Hey, y'all. How you doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. Thank you so much again for sharing your journey and turning almost 3 whole acres into beautiful pastoral prairie. It is really impressive and just such a cool thing to see.
Well, we appreciate you coming out. Cassandra thought of us whenever she was talking about the native grass, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cassandra, thank you for, doing what you do and supporting these amazing people, Mark and Jenny, in their journey. And thanks to Randy also, who is the first private land conservationist to start things off.
Yeah, Randy did a great job, and I love working with people and see them excited about their properties. So
Yeah, it's just a treat. Okay, y'all, we have a very vibrant Q&A going on, or lots of questions submitted rather. So I'm going to go through and ask y'all some questions. So folks in our audience, if you have questions for Cassandra or for Jenny and Mark, please put it in the Q&A so we can see it pop up in our queue. Okay, so first question is from Deborah. And this one may actually go to Cassandra quickly, and then we'll hop over to a different question. So with initial seeding, do you know if all the seeds were mixed together and then widespread? I think we kind of saw a little glimpse of maybe how that process went from that footage over winter, but Cassandra, do you have more insight on this?
yeah, we always mix the seeds together. Normally, you would need like a carrier for broadcasting, but Jenny and Mark, they drilled it in with a no-till drill. But like all the seeds are mixed together when planting.
Cool. Mark, this is a question for you from Melanie, and for you, Jenny, too. But do y'all burn and mow every year, or what's your schedule like for maintaining your landscape?
Yeah, and so I mow it every year, but you don't have to. You can leave it up year over year until you burn. But I mow it every fall after a couple of good hard freezes, usually by the 1st of December. And then Cassandra will tell me, yeah, you can burn this year, or no, you can't burn this year. They don't want you to burn every year, and there's specific times that they want you to burn. And so that's another point of working with someone that really knows, how to manage this. But I do mow every year.
Okay, and a follow-up question from Jim, what height do you mow it?
No,
Yeah.
that's a good question. It probably ends up being about, 4 or 5 inches tall. It's actually pretty close to the ground.
That's good. They said they've been told to just roll flatten the prairie every couple years. An example, burn 1 year, mow 1 year, roll 1 year. Does that sound familiar to y'all?
I might leave that to Cassandra to answer.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has different methods of, maintaining their prairies. That's a way to do it. Really, as long as you're getting some disturbance in here and there, whether you're mowing, if you're in a spot that you can't burn, or maybe you just can't do it because the city won't let you, or whatever the reason is, as long as you have that disturbance of the ground, because really what we're looking for is that thatch, which is like dead grasses and flowers over time build up on the soil. And if you don't have any disturbance, fire being the best. But if you don't have that option, then the other two options can be at least helpful in getting rid of that thatch and helping that bare ground be shown again. Because not only does the bare ground help with the health of the wildflowers and the sun to soil contact for germination and all that, but it also helps wildlife. And like a big part of doing this kind of thing is for wildlife and ground nesting birds and such. They need that space to get through those grasses and wildflowers. And so if you have just years and years of thatch built up with not doing any disturbance, then that can become an issue. So if you can't burn, then those other two options are there, to assist with that disturbance.
That's great. Okay, so this is a good question for both Mark and Jenny. Do you have that book that you like to reference there with you? The one that you showed on screen in our video?
Well, she has two here. She has the one she put together, her scrapbook.
Perfect. Okay, so first, perfect. Yeah. So
one that you showed at the beginning.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to just show this real quick for folks for reference. Missouri Wildflowers, and I realize it's blurry, by Edgar Dennison. It's the 6th edition. And in the resources that I'll email y'all, I'll make sure to have a link to that. And then there will be one lucky winner who will get to take that home today too. But follow up on that, Jenny, could you show us your book a little more and just talk about your process with that, why you've done it, and all that jazz? Yeah.
Well, when when our conservation agent originally came out, and we would, after in the spring, when the plants were coming up, and they're so knowledgeable, and they would just point and knew what everything was, and I just found myself being very lost in the whole process. And so they were so kind to let me take pictures and then put a marker in and to identify what the plant was. And then, of course, I could just go back when it matured, so I could see and identify it as at maturity. It was the help of the conservation department that kind of gave me the idea for this, because they were so knowledgeable, and I just felt like I knew nothing. And the immature plant, I still have difficulty identifying. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to.
And I might tag on to that. I mean, that's where she is. Where I am is whenever Randy came out, like in the spring of 19, the summer of 19, he would go walking around, and the stuff was this tall. It was a half of an inch tall, and he was identifying all these plants like Cassandra can, and I was just like, I don't need to know what everything is. I just want to know if it's something we put in the ground. Do I need to do anything, and are we okay? Jenny took an interest in what the plants were. To this day, I have never taken an interest in what the plants are. I just know that it looks good, and I just say, just tell me what I need to do. And other than that, I just know I don't have to mow it. I don't have to fertilize it. I don't have to water it. We have animals, and it's pretty. So kind of two different tales is if she wants to know what everything is, I could care less, but I do care how it looks.
I appreciate that. Sorry, go ahead, Cassandra.
Oh yeah, I wanted to add too, like a lot of people, Jenny doing that, like it comes from like the first 2 years, it's like stressful for landowners because they are like, it looks like weeds. Like it just, even like in the winter and stuff, like it's just weeds. And I'm like worried that it's just all weeds. Like, is anything good? And like, so that's like one reason that will come out is they're like, landowners will be like, what is this? Is it a lost cause? And then we have, it's nice to be able to go out there and tell them like, yes, this is all native. It looks great. You're going to have those annual weeds, but we also have a lot of good stuff in here. So
I love that. I mean, it's so good to have experts, right, who you can go to and get guidance from. But I also just want to say how much I appreciate the different approaches to why you care about this. Everyone has their own passions and interests, and both of your examples, Mark and Jenny, are completely valid. And so I just really appreciate hearing that, because there's so many different avenues people get interested in creating native habitat, right? So I just think that's really cool. I've got one more question for you, Mark, but because I know you might need to scoot a little early, but Rachel's asking, have you experienced any pushback from neighbors, or have you had any negative experiences from city ordinances? Also, if you could remind us what county you're in, and that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are in Platte County, so not too far from Platte City. We have there are 17 houses on acreage. We burn every other year now, like Jenny said, and this was recommended by the conservation department, was to let the neighbors know, because for about an hour or less, maybe 45 minutes now, because right now, as I backburn, I'll backburn a little bit on this side and then burn, but it will burn in about half of it an hour. And so it burns very quickly. And usually the neighbors want to come over and watch. So it's been quite the opposite of pushback. Everybody wants to help. Everybody has a propane tank and ignite. I'm like, nope, I got this. But so nope. And I will say this, that we have gone to the fire department, and we have gotten a burn permit. And what they have shared with us is that we don't have to burn on a specific day, but they just really want to do that so that while we are doing the burn, that if somebody in the vicinity, a mile away, sees black smoke or something, that they can say, hey, it's okay. We've got, a family doing a burn. So before we do a burn, we call into a specific phone number and we let them know that we're getting ready to do the burn. And then we put something on our Facebook.
That's great. And then Jenny, What about just the plantings in general? Have you ever gotten pushback about how the garden looks?
Positive feedback. We really haven't had much negative feedback uh, at all. We're concerned whenever the flowers, as we go into the fall, the color's gone, and so it's not as pretty. But nobody's ever complained about that. I think we're more concerned about it than our neighbors. But no, it's been a very positive experience for us.
But that's why we're going to overseed this fall.
Yeah.
And so because we want color, the color starts probably mid-June or
Into May.
into May.
We'll get some.
And then we want it to go through the end of September. We want it to go as late as it can, maybe through the early part of October. And so Cassandra will work with us and identify the seeds. And then, we'll put those down this fall.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to return next year and see how it's blooming. Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I do need to step away, but Jenny is the authority. But thanks to everyone that's here. I appreciate it. I think it's a valuable opportunity to learn. And so again, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us and sharing everything.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we'll continue on. Folks, if we don't get to all the questions, which I don't know that we will, because there's so many great ones, we will follow up via email. We'll get Cassandra and Mark and Jenny's assistance with responding to these messages and get those all those good answers to y'all. Okay. Let me see here. So Cassandra, Jenny's asking, are there ways to manage a similar planting on a smaller scale, like a 1/4 acre where you can't burn? What is the next best thing to burning if you can't? And we've kind of talked about different methods, but can you go into more depth?
Yeah, on the, and that is a concern with like even more in the city, smaller plantings of disturbance. And like I was talking about earlier, really, yes, burning is the #1 most effective tool, but the number two thing to do is you just want that disturbance of that soil and that thatch to go. So if you can, just mow it at least. Even if you can rake it, I don't know what your capabilities are, but if you can rake it out, that thatch, at least get some of that bare ground. Those native plants will come back. Their root systems are in there. The seed bank is in the soil. And so as long as you have that disturbance, you're going to be okay, even without fire.
Nice. And Cassandra, do you have any ideas on what kind of fall plants you might be adding to this mix? Have
I haven't looked into it. Sydney, do you have? I know you're pretty well versed on your fall plants too. What are your thoughts?
Yes, well, my instinct is immediately goldenrods and asters. Aromatic aster. There's so many different goldenrod species like showy goldenrod, zigzag goldenrod. There's lots of options there, but those the fall bloomers will definitely get you there with those friends. And then maybe some Rudbeckia species because they tend to bloom later in the summertime. But that was a question from Val, and I was also just curious.
Those are all great points. And in our initial mix, we do have like a format. Like if you come to Missouri Department of Conservation, whether you want to use us for kosher or just use us for technical advice, the seed mixes that we do put in, we have a form that we have a seed mix checker. And so we say, okay, how many blooms? We want so many different blooms for each season. And that has to be the case to get that wide variety. And sometimes, it just doesn't happen where we get the fall ones that aren't popping up as much. But we do try to initially make that so many different colors, so many different species per blooming period with our initial mix that we choose.
Yeah, that's really great. I'll be curious to see what that looks like just because it's fascinating to me. And so I do want to follow up and let folks know, Meredith did mention that there's a really great seedling ID guide from Missouri Department of Conservation, which we sell in our gift shops at the Discovery Center. Berwick Woods might sell it too. And I will include that in the resources, as well as there's a book on quail management that I might reach out to you about, Cassandra, see if we can get a link for that as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving right along. I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. This has been such a just an insightful episode today. So don't forget, folks, if your question does not get answered, we will get back to you via email in the next week or so. Okay. So let me see here. There's so many questions. Which one should we ask? Can you talk a little bit about management of the, like, so some people notice that there's Queen Anne's lace in there. So compared to some of the other species that you are managing in this area, like Cassandra, how does that compare to, let's say, Johnson grass in terms of intensity?
Yeah. There's always going to be things that pop in, and Jenny and Mark do a great job of like noticing when things are different than they have been, you know, taking care of the Johnson grass, taking care of thistles. They have a neighbor that planted some Queen Anne's lace, and it's kind of getting into their prairie some. It's not as aggressive of a species as the other ones that we're concerned about, but if we do get a big clump of it in one spot, I say, you know, we can get that area mowed and get that equal competition going again. Even like pop off the seed heads if we need to, depending on what the sparseness is. But typically, Queen Anne's lace isn't going to be as aggressive as those other ones that we're looking at, such as, you know, the Johnson grass and that. So it just depends on what method we're going to use with how much is there, and what the capabilities of the landowner are as far as getting out there and working on it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay. All right, y'all. So this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Who's going to win the pop quiz prize today? So for today's pop quiz, I would like for you all to tell me, as stated in MDC's mission statement, what are the 3 areas that MDC protect? Let us know in the chat, and the first person to correctly guess the 3 areas that MDC protects according to their mission statement will win this book. Okay. It looks like our first winner is going to be Ryan Steffens. Congratulations, Ryan. If you can send me a direct message with your address, we will get this copy of this book shipped out to you. So congratulations. Okay, y'all. Well, that is about all the time we have for today. This has been just a fully exciting episode. And Jenny, thank you and Mark so much for your stewardship and care for the environment. Everything that you're doing is so awesome, amazing, and beautiful. And again, we can't wait to come back and visit y'all and see how it continues to progress and become more and more beautiful.
Well, thank you, Sydney. We really appreciate your enthusiasm too. You know, you're welcome anytime.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I will take you up on that, so be careful. Cassandra, thank you as well. We appreciate having you on as our repeat guest expert. You are so knowledgeable, and we just appreciate everything that you're doing in Clay and Platte counties and beyond to support wildlife. So thank you as well.
Yes, thank you guys.
All right. And while we sign off, I just want to let all of you in the audience know we have an exciting episode coming up on August 15th at noon. It is Native Plants at Noon, Pond Stewardship, and Aquatic Native Species. Our guest speakers will be Caleb Pemberton and Kelsey Brown of Missouri Department of Conservation. It should be an exciting episode, so I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.